First things first, let's get the distractions out of the way. Look at how freaking adorable you are. Last year, I did a weekly monetization, weekly journal video series. I never really figured out a flow off your tongue way to say it. I didn't really enjoy making it. And that's just because it felt like it could have just been a short. I didn't feel like it provided much value. So I stopped and went back to the drawing board of what I wanted that video series to look like. And now we're here with knits. The new and improved version of that series. Instead of just reporting on my numbers, I've decided I'm going to share my weekly self-planning meeting, or for my corporate peeps, my one-on-one with myself. I even made an agenda because I had to which I've already made a few edits, even though I've laminated it. Version 2 coming up soon. Anyways, purpose of doing this is to hold myself accountable, just like a one-on-one should be. In fact, I'm going to look up what the definition of a one-on-one is. This is exactly what the purpose of doing this with myself every week is. Just real fast. One-on-ones are supposed to be a meeting between managers and their employee to help them do these following things. Build trust, which I do want to do with myself. Trust that I can do these things that I want to do. Provide feedback to myself on how I can accomplish these goals, especially, on those weeks where you don't get a lot done. Improve performance. I think that's pretty on the nose. I want it to help me improve my productivity with the things I want to get done in my goals, engagement, getting fun things done, enjoying life, retention. I mean, that's a little more worky, but whatever. Advanced relationships. I mean, yeah, because part of what I'm planning in my weekly and monthly plans is to actually reach out to connections, foster transparency. Yeah. And sometimes we need to be transparent with ourselves, and that's also can be difficult to do. Anywho, now that we've done that, that is the purpose of these weekly meetings, why I made an agenda for myself. And no, I don't overthink anything. First thing to do is to set the scene. Because if you have a lot of time, whole afternoon, go for it. Get into it. Make it a whole thing. I do encourage to have about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how organized you already are or want to be. So what do I mean by set the scene? Well, first thing first, which I had to do before I started filming, get a drink. I encourage that. You don't have to, but getting a favorite drink is really a good thing to do. Very helpful, always. But the two actually most important things you have to do, pick up what you don't need, move everything physically out of the way, like pens or papers that you don't need. Go through them if they're not too many. If it's overwhelming, set them aside in your go through later pile. Find a distraction-free zone if you can. If you have cats, that might be difficult. Find a distraction-free zone if you can. While you're doing that or right after you do that, bring out the things that you need, which might be a planner, your weekly agenda, and a pen or a digital planner. If you want to take it up a notch and really set the scene, I highly encourage involving scents and candles by getting your favorite drink and those types of things. In fact, when I can, like to include scents within my aroma diffuser. When Poptart doesn't make me nervous that she'll just come over and knock it over. Hopefully she's not in this menace mood every week. Let's just do quick review. Pick up and clear the zone that you're working in, or find a clear distraction-free zone. Gather the tools that you're going to need for this. Take it up a notch. Anything else that helps set the mood for taking some time to reflect, review, and plan ahead. If you've ever tried to have one of these reflection meetings, or if you even purchased a planner, usually it has a part where you have to reflect on the past, and sometimes that can be really difficult to do. About a week ago, I really couldn't get anything done because I was so stuck on the past. And one thing that really helped me get over that, if you are in that boat, is journaling, which I am not going to dive into in this video. If that's where you're at, you don't have to look back sometimes if it can be really hard. And if you can, if you're just trying to avoid it, don't. Sometimes it's best to just start fresh. You just do what you need to do. Follow your gut instinct. And that's my PSA, because we're staying focused as best we can. Journaling is the perfect transition to step number 2 on the agenda, which is reflect on this past week. You need somewhere to do that. I am a paper and pen gal, so I will be doing it in my planner that I have, but feel free to do it in a digital journal or iPad or whatever you feel free to. Poptart, you can be up there, but just don't flick your tail across my camera. I'm not good enough to repeat some of these takes. The point of reflecting on your past week is to evaluate your progress and look for areas of improvement. I like to do this by making 4 lists. The first list are my wins. What are things I'm proud of or grateful for that happened this week, whether it was planned or not? The second list is continue. What is currently working well and should be maintained into the next week? The third list are the things I want to start doing. What are new practices or behaviors I want to start doing this week? The final list is stop. What are the things I want to stop doing that are hindering my progress and should not be continued on into the next week? I always end with this list because I like to boost myself up before I review myself a little bit more harshly than I may be used to. While you're reflecting, you can focus on personal, professional, or both kinds of goals. The third one I'm going to throw at you, if you are on the same journey as me, which is content creation, is reflecting on your content. And this is where the monetization journal part comes back into play. And what I mean is this little portion is reviewing our analytics. I know some people can really deep dive into what that means, but we're going to keep it simple. We're not going to overthink it, especially if we're just beginning or just restarting, depending on where you're at in your journey. So what I'll be showing is reviewing your analytics for somebody who is just starting or is restarting their social media endeavors. That means this first week is just creating a baseline of where we're at. I just want to write down the main numbers I'm going to be tracking over the next few months. Since this is my first week back to doing this video, of course, I'm having a ton of ideas about how I want to present it, especially since I do plan on keeping up with this every week. Because of that, it makes me feel like I'm not going to do this video to actually put it up in time, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to put this video up. It will be a little bit more simple. Pop-Tart, I can see your hair in the camera. Please, you never sit right there. And yes, of course, I did just come up with a whole idea of how to display this and make a little report card. That'll be coming, but we're not going to delay this video for that because I'm not a very fast graphic designer, so that'll take a second. This week, just a quick glance and moving on, I will definitely be spending most likely at least twice as much time next week looking at not just these numbers, but a few other things as well, because I'll have content to look at. I'm not even putting my thumb up. I forgot that those were on. But apparently it's a good idea. So stay tuned for that. Come back for that. I don't know. Well, you know what I mean. And I completely forgot to do this earlier. So I'm going to do it now. And we're going to just pretend like it matches the video. Because clearly the lighting's changed. My name is Claire Miller. This is my weekly planning series. There might be a few extra videos sprinkled in throughout here on this channel. But that's that. And now let's get back to the one-on-one with myself. This next step goes along with reviewing, but I like to make it its own thing because some weeks I do a lot with it and some weeks I don't do anything with it. And it just, for my brain, it just works better to separate it. One of those things is reviewing my backlog, my Braindump list. I've developed this process of a Braindump backlog thing because I like to overthink and I like to what I call procrastiplan, which you can kind of put together is procrastinating through planning. It's a great ADHD tactic to not get things done. Part of the reason, again, for doing these meetings is to hold myself accountable. Now, I have a process to this that is going to be its whole other video. In fact, I filmed the video like 3 times and I should probably just edit one of those 3 times. But at this point, I don't even know where that footage is. So I'm just gonna have to refilm it. That tangent 4, I'm going to very quickly show you what I mean with reviewing my Braindump and my backlog, but I'm not going to dive too much into it because I can over explain that. And by show this week, I mean I'm just going to explain what those 2 things are. A Braindump is taking some time to write down
everything that comes to mind that you need to do. Get all of your thoughts and ideas down on paper to free up space in your brain. A backlog list is a list of the things that come from my brain dump that I am not prioritizing right now, but I'm also not going to forget about. Again, I will over-explain these two lists in the video I make about them.
What this is allowing me to do is make sure I focus on accomplishing that list and crossing those items off before just writing those items in a different list. Obviously, the first thing is to just update the list, cross off anything else that you have done. If you need to add a few items to the list, feel free to add them. I'm overthinking. Move on. Okay. Do not want to over-explain adding items to this list. So that brain dump backlog video where I go more into depth with this, go to that. We'll talk about how I do that later. I love over-explaining just like so much, but moving on. After updating the list, the next thing to do is to see what items I need to take and put into this week's plans. Are there any deadlines that are now like here and that I can't ignore anymore? Or are there items where it's like, okay, this has been weighing on my mind and I have to take care of it this week? Or are there items where I'm like, all right, we're done. We're not doing it anymore. Take some time to look at your list from those different perspectives to see if there's anything else you can do with it. This is really helpful in helping not to do that whole writing the list over and over again and referring to one. I am going to do one little side note about adding things to this list. We'll just generalize it. I don't add regular tasks like meal prepping or cleaning tasks that I do basically every week. I add deep cleaning tasks like, hey, needed to vacuum out the dryer bin, stuff like that, which I probably should do. This brain dump list is the other things that need to happen throughout life that build up, like Amazon returns or making appointments, or I can't remember anything else right now that's just really general to share, but you know what I mean. It's just like all those tasks that just build up, patching a hole in a wall, doing a project that you actually want to do. So review that list, review any of your to-do items that you wrote down, or if you aren't doing this method and you do have 1,000 lists, which I have so been there, I am 100% not judging, and sometimes it's fun to have that, to be honest with you, so I get it. But if you can collect all of your little lists, I know what you mean, and go through them and clean it up and figure out what your actual task list is for this week and what can go in that backlog. That's way more than enough about talking about that. The fourth line item in this meeting agenda with myself is to review and reassess my big goals and priorities. Shout out to my planner, which was one that I just got at Target. What I love about it is it does have, I'm going to show you a blank one because sometimes goals are personal. At the beginning of each month, it has a place to write down your top goals and the action items, obviously, and then it has like a nice little review page as well, which I think is fun. Why I love that this page is absolutely key, and I will be having it in my planner from now on, depending on how I have to do that. And what that is writing down 3 things I want to accomplish that month, and then just being able to write down the action items that it takes to get there. What I love about it is it gets me a place where I can, during this time of my meeting, flip back to it, and I can take a moment to review and look at these goals and just say, what did I do? Which was actually really helpful. I was able to cross off 2 pretty big action items underneath 2 projects that I want to get done. And that felt really good. And I only did that because halfway through the week, I was like, I am so lost. I have done nothing with my life. What do I need to do? I had we're going down that spiral. And instead of spiraling, I was able to look at this page and say, I can do that today. I can cross that off. And I did. So that was really fun. So find a place where you can have your top 3 goals for the month. And being someone who always loves to overcommit, I really encourage just like 3 goals. And then break the goals down into action items. I will share a download link in the description of this wonderful project breakdown sheet that's free from Passion Planner, which what I love about them and how I got started with them was they offer basically everything they sell as a free download. It's just an awesome way to start. And they have a great project breakdown sheet. Download link, too long. There you go. Back to step number 4 of this meeting with ourselves is just to review those projects. So if you have those written down for the month, review them, see if there is anything that you accomplished, and congratulate yourself. Good job. I get to cross off 2 things on this list, but there are a few other things that I kind of need to do. There's a lot of ways to look at them. This week, what I'm looking at is the fact that a lot of my goal Action items are just tasks that I just have to make time for. So I just need to kind of choose 1 or 2 to do each week, more like 3 or 4 to do each week. And one of my goals is just about consistency, which means I just need to do it. So that's what goes in the habit tracker, which actually leads us to step number 5, planning out the week ahead. This is where my procrastinating I mentioned earlier can really come into play. So this is something I have decided to be very direct with myself on so that I can actually plan in an efficient manner and not just plan. Because I like to overthink this part, the planning part, like I said, procrastinate, I've come up with a very succinct way to keep myself on track. Track. Why was that so hard to say? To keep myself on track. It's 4 steps for us to work through everything we need to get done so we can be closer to our goals, both big and small, or necessary.
Speaking of necessary, the first things I schedule on my calendar are anything that's required, like appointments or chores like trash or work, anything that's pre-scheduled. Then we're going to plan out our key goals for the next week, which are usually action items to help me achieve my monthly goals.
Once I've determined what those top goals are and the habits I need to get them there, I'm going to write them down so I can look at them throughout the week and really keep myself on the path moving forward.
Step number 3 is to take those key goals and create sprint plans for them.
And really what that means is breaking a big goal down into little sprints to help you get closer to the full goal and deadline. It's really just breaking down the project, but it's a fun way to put it, I guess. And it works. So it's going to work for me.
The final step is the concept of time blocking. Once you've created your sprint plans, you're going to be left with a list of tasks you need to complete throughout the week, plus the tasks that you might have from your brain dump that you need to get done.
Look at the different days and the times that I have available throughout my week based on work, appointments, schedules, all those things we did in the tidy up section, number 1, step number 1, whatever. I look at all of the time that I have around that allows me to get these done. And I kind of determine the days that I can sit down and work for a few hours at a time and the days I can only do short little things, which will help me prioritize throughout the week. I am trying not to over-explain this. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the final step of this meeting. And the final step of this meeting is to close it out, which honestly just, cheers. That's what it means. Whether it's morning or nighttime for you, just closing the meeting out on a positive note of some sort. If you have the time, I encourage you to take a few moments to visualize what all the plans you just made look like as successful. Visualize yourself doing them. You could write a short affirmation or mantra, which maybe I'll start adding. Oh, I have an idea. Okay, here's my idea. I have these fun cards. They're fun sayings. They're naughty sayings. They have curse words on them. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle. Not like that, though, because I just shuffled them integrated in a different way than I want them to be. And I'm going to include a mantra for the week. So here we go. What is our mantra for the week? Okay. Some of these are pretty specific and some of these are going to be really open-ended, but I love this one. Is going down with your job. Reevaluate, change your perspective, or quit. What I will encourage you is going down with your, whether it's your job, whether it's your side hustle, your relationship, your friendships, your family. You know what it's going down with. So you need to reevaluate, change your perspective, or quit. That's this week's mantra. That took so much longer than it should. That's this week's Agile meeting with myself, my own personal one-on-one, and I promise these will get less chaotic. Promise. What? Someone just walked up to my door when you can totally see me when you walk up to the door, so that's fun. That's not awkward. Hi. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, well, that was cool. Now, this is where I break out my erasable pens because I'm a dork and I love them. But look at the colors. I'm over-explaining.